right. Hey there, everybody. Can I get a quick 10-second delay thumbs up to see if people can hear me and if they can see my screen okay? Hey there, everybody. Sorry, we're kind of ready to go. I just want to make sure that people can hear me, and if you could, let me know that everything is good on your end. There's a screen to see, and my voice is coming through. I know there's a 10-second delay, so maybe I'll just keep talking until somebody says yes. All right, I'm going to keep going. I think it's good. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to jump into my notes and everything and tell you a bit about the 211 Canada app and what I'm also calling the Summer of AI.
And I will start your.
Sorry. I just wanted to tell Andrew that we can hear him if he's all right to put himself on mute. All right, thank you guys. All right, let's get started. And I'll just keep rolling on. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself and why we're all here. And that is my cat. I was told that my picture was not smiling enough, so at the last minute I put a giant picture of my cat. So about me, my name is Dave Montague. I'm the Director of Digital Solutions at FindHelp 211. And like a lot of the people here on the line, just checking out the members here, or the participants. FindHelp is one of the 211s. It's an information and referrals center. We do 211, we do other lines like victim support lines, crisis lines, that type of stuff. And I've been in the sector since 1995. I started at job finding clubs, employment resource centers. And like a few people in the participant list, I worked for a long time at OCASI, the Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants. And I started there in 1999, believe it or not. And on this, we started working with 211 data, believe it or not, almost immediately. It was one of the first big things that we worked on. So I've had experience working with the 211 sector, I would say, for over 20 years. And I started here at FindHelp in 2017. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what I'm here to do, or even in my day-to-day, because everybody wants to know about my day-to-day. But really, my mandate, is the way I sort of say it, is I'm here to support a 211 Canada data set. Every day I'm trying to figure out ways to make sure that we're all, the 211s across Canada are bringing together data in a way that makes it useful and valued by national stakeholders. I'm talking government, academics, partners, and the idea is that before the pandemic, there was 16 separate 211s and none of the data was connected. By the end of the pandemic, we have a national data repository where all the 211s are sending their data in Canada, sending their data to the one place. And we're able to, I won't go into the details of it all, but we've been able to pull it all together from the different data providers. Another part of my job is to expand the 211 data usage. And just, I think everybody knows, but I'm talking about the resource data, right? We're talking food banks and income support, all of that kind of stuff. We do talk about other types of data, but everything I'm talking about today is for the 211 data, resource data. And really what I do is I spend time trying to get that data into as many platforms and used by as many people as possible. This includes other, again, government stakeholders, but other nonprofits. We try, people can use it in their CMS. People can use it for their own websites. So I spend a lot of my time helping facilitate the access to 211 data. And to do all of those things, it's about creating new tools. And that's a lot of what you're going to see today. I spent a lot of time thinking about, invariably paying other people to create tools that help others access the data, help bring the data together, and to push it out into a format that's usable and valued by others. So yeah, a lot of my job, that's that whole digital solutions. That's my official title, Director of Digital Solutions. And so one of the things that here we're going to talk about today, of course, is that 211 Canada app, which is your kind of best example of of a tool that helps get the 211 data into other people's hands. So let me keep rolling in. So again, I think you guys know, but there's no chatting or there's chatting, but Andrew will be taking care of that. And then, and there's no back and forth, which is bad for me because I'm pretty informal. So if I make a joke, I'll just assume you guys are laughing. All right. So today we're going to get to know the 211 Canada app, which means I'm going to try to share my phone to the people here, which I'm sure will go well. We're also going to talk about another project that supports the Canada app, which is the CORDS project. And we'll tell you what CORDS stand for, because if I did, you'd just drop off. But we're trying to be innovative in how people are searching the data. So I'll talk a lot about natural language processing, natural language searching. That's about half of the presentation. And then the other half is, I'm calling it the Summer of AI. And so what happened this summer is I had a lot of students, and we have a lot of data, and there's a lot of people trying to tell us how to use AI to improve our efficiencies, to improve our data. So I spent time with students and others testing a bunch of different options and testing how AI might be actually usable in our systems, because I know AI is a big part of what what we're thinking about. Like, it seems I certainly don't go a day without somebody mentioning AI in some context. And there are some obvious or seemingly obvious implementations of AI inside the work that we do, the editorial process, the call-taking process, chatbots. So what we're going to do is very briefly just go through some of the tests that we ran this summer. We're going to talk about data standardization and AI, because again, bringing data from all the 211s together technically is one thing, but getting them to read the same is completely different. So we'll talk a bit about that. Data maintenance, specifically in this instance, it's about dead link or broken link checking. Translation tools, can we use AI to translate into French or other languages? And of course, the chatbot that everybody talks about, right? So we did research on each of those, and I'll do little snapshots of some of the findings. But first off, I'm going to talk about the app. So give me a second here. All right. So again, I have my notes. I have what I'm actually going to say, and sometimes they're not the same. So every now and then I'll have to revert back. But the 211 Canada app, and if you don't have it yet, you can go to app.211support.org and get it and download it. It's for the iPhone and Android phones. And as I was mentioning, the 211 Canada app is, aside from Quebec, but they're coming, Canada-wide. We have data from each province and territory. And I don't want to get too technical about it, but the idea being that, again, one of my roles is to bring the data together, or help bring the data together. So we have this national data repository in partnership with the United Way Zone Trade, United Way Canada. And every night we grab all the files from the different iCarols that the groups are using, and we pull it together into one central database. And then from that one central database, we can send it off to do different things, including things like the app, including things like the different websites we've been doing, including this CORDS system that I'll tell you about in a minute. But the idea being that we wanted to build something that sort of showcases 211 data. And I'll say right off the bat, like, apps aren't for everybody. Like this, it's not going to be the number one hit of this. But what we wanted to do was build a tool that showcase that 211 is Canada-wide, but can be also locally relevant, right? We do want people to use this. We want people who are advocates for social workers or a lot of like crisis teams, like mobile crisis teams. We wanted to build something that was very location aware. All right, because yeah, a lot of our websites would do similar things, but this app has certain features and certain location features that are very different than what you could get on a phone, or not very different, but they're different. So the app, yeah, it's totally free and it's live now. I'm going to show you a demo in a second, but I just want to give you a little bit of a background on it. One of the main things that sets this app apart from our websites and a lot of the websites of the 211s is this natural language search. And when I talk about it, it's nothing that you haven't used, 100 times a week, right? When you type into Google, you're usually doing natural language search. It's the type of, just like it says, it's natural. You get to just type in how you would talk. Whereas in a lot of the instances in our 211 sites, you kind of need to either know sector jargon or use very broad terms or the exact name of the organization. It's not as forgiving, certainly on the websites that I manage. So I'm not trying to say that all sites are as the same, but the fact is a lot of the sites that we use day to day in our sector, they are built on a technology that for searching that is not natural language. It's built on keyword matching. And I just want to say, so the idea of natural language, this is where I got to go back to my notes and actually tell you what I meant to say. So natural language processing it's complicated. That's why you don't see it everywhere. It takes a lot of sort of programming power. And there's lots of groups that are out there to help you do it now, but it still takes a lot to pull it all together. That's why you don't see it everywhere. But just to give you a sense of what makes it stand apart, it's about the intent of the search versus the intent and the intent of the record. And when I say intent, it's like, what was the meaning? Because again, when you're doing keyword matching, you're talking about, I need to find that exact word or that exact phrase. There's no fuzziness, there's no give to it. Natural language processing says, well, if this person says, my mom's memory is failing, it's not looking for the word mom. It's looking for words that kind of mean mother or senior or to those kind of things. It's understanding the intent. And then it goes to the records that we have, the 211 records, and it's looking for records that have the same sort of intent. It's not looking for the word mom. It's not trying to match those things because it won't work. But that's why Google is so good and those types of searches are so good, because they understand the intent, the semantics, the meaning behind your search. And this is why, the app has this natural language and it's based on that chords that I'll talk about in a minute. But going forward, it's this kind of search online that I think it's going to be required. The types of keyword matching, if it's even spelled just a little bit off, it's not going to work kind of stuff. It's not going to be long-term. That's not what people are interested in. All right, so I'm going to keep going because everybody wants to talk about natural language search all day, I know. So give me 1 second here because I'm going to try to share my phone without sharing too much. No, I'm just kidding. I want you to see the whole thing. So we're going to open my wallet for some reason. All right, we're going to try again. Okay, so give me 1 second here. All right. All right. So hopefully you can see this. It should be on the same screen. Looks good. So you got your little icon down there. All right. So I'll go into some of the areas, but I'm not going to cover every single thing. But I just want to make sure that people, for sure, go get the app, test it out. We haven't started promoting it yet, right? We spent the summer putting it out, just letting people work on it a little bit. Well, not work on it a little bit, but test it before we started to promote it. We're going to start promoting it this fall. So, like I said, the app itself is purely, it's a 211 search, but what makes it a little bit different is it's very location aware, and it's using the natural language search, which is something we don't have in most of our websites. So I'm going to do some test searches, all right? And and I've already lost the ones I wanted to tell you about. Oh, this one here. All right. Okay, there we go. So the main things we want to do, it's literally just, I'm trying to, I keep forgetting it's on my phone. Oh, of course. So in general, right, sorry, the app itself, we try to sort of model it on a Google Maps type of interface. Maybe they'll sue us, maybe they won't, but I doubt they will. But the idea being that it's very familiar, or at least it should be for those who use products like Google Maps and other mapping tools. And the main areas that you'll see, so we have the Explore tab, which is really just like the map and the services results when you see them. I'll show you the saved. You can save results once you like them, or you can save it on a detail page. We have updates. So updates is going to be part of the location awareness. The idea being that we can create updates and send alerts right down to the postal code level. Like we have visions of this app being part of like an emergency response type of suite of tools, right? So again, it takes critical mass to a degree, but if you have people in the field and you want to be able to push something about a new service or something like that, very specific to an area, you can do that. There's this whole admin area in the back. I'm not going to go there, of course, but that's the kind of thing that we want this app to do. But right now, also the updates themselves can be just typical blog type of updates. So we'll go through some of these things. And then, but really what we're talking about here, just general searches, right? Find my first job. Right? So again, this isn't earth-shattering in a way for people, but find my first job isn't a typical search. Like I see what people type into the searches, right? You'll see like it's employment or housing. It's not natural searching because our stuff, we don't have records that have find, that kind of stuff. So this, just right now, you can drag that down, you can push that back up, you can see all of that. If you liked this Career Foundation one, you could save it. Where'd you go? Did it not work? Oh, there it is. Oh, there's a delay. Ugh. And then, sorry, that's right. I forgot about the 10-second delay even on here. All right. Okay. So the idea being that you can drag around. Again, so much of this is going to be familiar, hopefully, right? And you can click on there, opens up. And some of the things that are here, sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just that little delay. It's not the app, it's whatever's happening here. All right. Some of the things about this site, though, that are kind of neat, or about this app, here it comes, is the similar resources. It takes, again, the semantics. It's not looking at the keywords. It's looking at the type of record that you're looking at and saying, well, here's a few other ones that are maybe nearby that could be useful for you. All right. And I'll talk more about that on the chords one, because that other project we've done is all about bringing in related resources. So let me get out of there. I'm sorry if my talk to video is all messed up because my app is going much faster than what you're saying. All right, so you can always click back in there to see some other ones. It's also, like I was talking about, very location aware, and the natural language search can try to pick out, the location. So like job search help in Calgary. Right now, I have my settings set for Toronto, but because it looks into the terms of my keyword. All right, so there we go. All right, so now it understands that I'm looking in Calgary. The search is smart enough and fuzzy enough. I know I use that all the time, but it is kind of night and day compared to where some of the sites that I've been managing can search on. And again, this app is built on a platform that I'm going to tell you about in a minute that other people can use. So I won't go too deep into this. Like I said, it's similar area things that other people can do. So I'm just going to search this area eventually. And so they click that little search, search this area. Again, it's all the same stuff, right? So nothing too mind-boggling, but again, it's the types of terms, the types of searches you can do in this app are different than what we would normally expect from 211. And the fact that it is Canada-wide means, but it's also local. It always starts with where you are. And so I have one of the things here I talk about is that this app can be used and thought of as your provincial app, your city app, right? It doesn't start in the middle of Canada every time. It starts where you are, wherever that person is. So one of the areas, so I'm just going to get it back to the main sort of area there. I won't go too deep into it, but there's ways to call 211 from here as well, of course. You can chat. Sorry, I'm just having trouble with the delay. It's killing me. So I'm just going to say, I'll wait till I get to the contact page. All right. Will it ever get there? I don't know. There we go. The idea being that you can just click on the 211 at the top and it'll dial the 211 local to wherever you are. If you wanted to call 211 in one of the other provinces or territories, you can do that from this screen. I'm not going to keep clicking things because, again, killing me. What else is going on this time? So yeah, the saved is there. You can go use the Explorer to go back to the current. Oh, that's better. All right, so I'm not going to go too more deep into the app, only because, like I said, the delay is a little much, but also download it. We want you to download it. We want you to use it. If you think there's something wildly wrong with it, you let us know. That's what we want to see. We want to know. Again, we've had enough people test it. We've had enough people sort of say, well, hey, this could do this or this could do that, and we've made those changes. But we have more things that we want to do, so there's always time to update it. Now, if anybody's ever made an app before or really just paid for an app before, they're not inexpensive, they're not cheap. And creating updates, you can't have everything you want right away. And sometimes you can't get what you want at all because either it's too expensive to do or it's just not feasible. But one of the things, so let's get back to that. So I'm almost on the app part, but the one of the main things that is coming, and this idea of being location aware, is that right now it's just keyword based, but there are ways, and there's even on the page here, you can see it. I don't know if you can see it too much, but you can have topics either predefined by taxonomy terms, which isn't very natural language, but there are sometimes when we just want to be very precise. And so I'm a big fan of the topics, truth be told, but and what we'll be able to do is, depending on the province that you're in, you'll be able to have topics that make sense. Because again, as somebody who's worked a lot on trying to bring all the provinces together, it's amazing how there are some differences. They're not wild, but they are. Certain things are done certain ways, certain taxonomies are used more in certain areas. And certainly you can't just have a cookie cutter collection of topics, right? Because you can't have Service New Brunswick or Service Ontario on everybody's screen. So no, that's one of the big things that are coming. And like I said, we'll talk a bit more about the chords, but there's other things like alerts. We can bring in other data sets. So the URL is up on the screen there, the app.211support.org. I'm hoping to see 28 new downloads today. I'm just kidding, but if you can, go ahead. I think you like it. And like I said, it's the kind of thing that is out now. And if you hit a bug or something doesn't make sense to you, let me know. Like I said, it's never too late to make changes, or at least to put them in the pipeline, right? So we're hoping we're at a point where it's usable. I hope so, because it's live and people are using it. All right, so I'm going to keep rolling because that took a lot longer than I thought. All right. So that was the app. The Chords platform it's really the platform that does the search happens, where the search happens. When you type into the 211 app, you're actually using, or that data is actually being processed. That query is being processed by our Chords platform. This is our natural language search project. It's part of they've gone through three different names since then, but to me, it's always ESDC. It's a funded project, and the idea was to create a no wrong door approach for youth looking for employment. That was the original ask. And what they wanted, what we put forward is that we can create a tool that lets us bring in multiple data sets from different partners so that youth don't have to go looking to different areas. And we wanted to create a tool where youth don't have to know the jargon, don't have to know the keywords to get to the services that they need. The whole idea was to create an accessible platform. And so the main thing we've done with Chords is use the natural language search to bring in different data partners. So again, this is me going back to my notes to make sure I actually say the things I want to say. Inside Chords, we have 5 partners for starters. We have mentoring opportunities, actual job postings, volunteering opportunities, 211 resources, and government benefits. The mentoring is Mentor Canada. Job postings is this group called Magnet, which is part of the Toronto Metropolitan University. Volunteering Connector is they bring volunteering opportunities together from a bunch of different volunteer centers. 211, of course, is 211 Canada organizations. And the government benefits is a really neat one. It's all the rest of them were sort of very, mentoring opportunities. Here's somewhere you can call. Like this is the actual opportunity. Same with the job posting, volunteering, resources. But the government benefits is from Prosper Canada, who some of you may know, and they have a benefits finder tool. And so what this means is that these are different types of data. Some of them are similar, but certainly something like government benefits, like a government benefit program, is not the same as an employment office or a food bank. So, and each one of these groups have their own taxonomies, their own categories, their own way of organizing data. And the great thing about natural language search is it does away with all of that. So every day, every night, we grab data from each of these 5 partners and bring it into our centralized database. And it gets all, magic happens where it gets all vectorized and analyzed. And so when somebody does a search on the Chords site, it takes that natural language, looks at the intent, just like on the app, but then it goes and looks at the 5 different data sets that have been blended, and it looks at the intent of them. It doesn't matter what the words are. It doesn't matter whether one's a job bank or like a job posting or a benefit. What is the intent? I have a couple of examples that I'll show in a second, but the idea being that if you wanted to, find something, I need financial assistance. Well, it'll show you things like job postings. It'll show you things like 211 resources. It'll show you potentially even government benefits. So before I make up things that may or may not be true, let me send you to the actual thing. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do the website here. Everybody can see this. All right. So let me just make sure. All right. So things like looking for my first, job. All right. Okay. So again, it's a search. And again, I wanted to talk about this website for starters. You can go there. Like I have the link on the site, but also in the back of the slide. But this website is not meant to be, and I'll talk about that in a second, but this website was purely for stakeholders and the funders, for them to see it. Because what we want is to be able to share the Chords infrastructure behind the scenes. So we're not driving people to this website. It is not a destination, but purely just so that we can, we can show people what it is before they start to work on, say, the technical underparts. But so that's why you'll see some of these things. But I don't know, maybe, hopefully I don't want to start messing with the screen size now, but forget it, I'll mess. So it has the search results, so you can narrow it down by local, regional, provincial, national, and you can do all of that in the behind the scenes as well. But what we wanted to do, again, just for kind of testing, it'll show you like a resource, like whenever you see a resource, that's 211. It'll show you volunteering options, a mentoring option, right? It'll show you the different ones. It'll show you when it's open. We were trying to get all fancy, that kind of stuff. But it blends them together, right? Because when, say, you're a youth, and again, I know I talked a lot about the youth, but that's the group that helps pay the bills. But the fact is, this is applicable to any sector, any segment, any audience. It's because it's the science behind it. And I'll tell you too, the data sets we have, for the most part, they're national, but they can be provincial. They can be local as well, because again, it's all about where you're searching. If there's no results for a certain set of data. Now, I know I have a couple of my friends from OCASI here, at least I did. But the idea being that something like, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be just data for, locations. The government, government benefits, yeah, that's for maybe a province or Canada-wide, but it could be different types of data. Like I've always, I worked a lot on the settlement.org website, which is something that some people may know here in Ontario. It's a great website with a ton of information, geared towards newcomers to Ontario, but so much of it is applicable Canada-wide. But even still, if we had, say, data from settlement.org in this data set, those records would show up here if they made sense. So people would get this really 360 kind of context to the information they're asking you about. Here's some 211 services, sure, but here's the thing that explains maybe what those services are or what those types of services might usually provide. So, and if there's not a settlement.org in every province, that's fine, because if you're searching in Vancouver, well, then that's what you'll get, what you get in Vancouver. So, because we have things like, you can imagine, like some of the other data sets we're looking at are like university programs, college programs, things that match the intent of what you're trying to do. Now, we can't just throw everything in there because it'll become too much. It might get overwhelming. So, we've only added Prosper Canada and the volunteering were the only two extra data partners after the original three. But this idea of data, complementary data sets is what we're looking at. We're trying to create a 360, like a fulsome data set, regardless. And again, we don't need that Rosetta Stone of your category A equals R, taxonomy B equals this. So let me do a couple more because I am so bored. So I just wanted to show you someone, if it goes exactly the way I planned. But the idea being something like this, right? So it shows you the 211 resources, which you might expect for that kind of thing. But it'll also bring up a benefit, right? These are the kind of, this sort of, again, 360, I don't want to overstate it, but this idea being that, letting people know about services is one thing, but letting them know about the benefits, letting them know about the context of the problem they're dealing with. These are the kind of things that we want to do with this. So again, this search right here brought up resources, volunteering, benefits, and it keeps going. So the other thing I want to do about this, and before I completely forget, is it also brings up related resources, right? And one of the things that we did early on in this program is we tried to be evidence-based, because what we wanted to do, and it's a little, I don't want to say trashy, but the idea, we want to bring out an Amazon-like feel to it, because you're looking for this, but you might also be interested in this, and people who looked at that also looked at this. And so the idea being that we're able to look at all the 211 referrals, now not across Canada, like it was a smaller subset, and it's just really, again, because we're only looking at the intent, we don't need to know even the name of the organization. We certainly don't know the name, like any personal information, but all we do is we look at what types of referrals were made in the same type of call, right? So it's really just 2 or 3 fields that we look at. And from there, you can get a sense of, well, if somebody's being asking about dementia programs, then we can also, they're also being provided respite care and income support. We can use that to sort of train the system, the algorithm in the back, to look at real life referrals, real life evidence-based referrals. All right, so I'm going to keep going because it's already 1:35. So where am I at here? That's not where I want to be. It always happens, right? So let me just go back into, what do you guys see here? Yeah, no, okay. Where did it go? This happened last time too. The last time I did, I had to go right out. So you know what? You guys get to see this. Is that all right? I think it's okay. So let me just see. So we were doing this one. Sorry, things have fallen apart already. Okay, so just to finish up on the cord site, the data partners, and so yeah, we talked about the data partners, talked about the evidence-based. The big thing here is API-driven. Again, that website is not where we need to be, right? That's not that's not the end product. The end product is using the APIs to have your site connected to this one. So I'm going to go real quickly through this one. It's a one of the things that we wanted to do was also not everybody can work with APIs. It's a bit, a bit high end for sure. And so what we have is the ability to include a little search widget. So what it does, and this is quite a neat little thing, it takes a look at the content, and this is all obviously with permission because the group has to, accept the terms and put it on their website. But the idea being that the system looks at the content, again, the meaning, the intent of the page, and then finds similar services wherever the location is that it's figuring out. Right? So if I go to free food service, and I click on my little widget down here, all right, same thing. And again, it's the same stuff. You can save it to a code there. But that was the idea of potentially, and again, not to pick on Solomon.org, I have visions of this on every page. Wouldn't that be amazing? You have an article about something, and then you can have related resources on every page. All right. So I'm going to keep going now because I'm not going to be here forever. So let me get back to here. All right. So those are the big two platforms. Now, why on earth am I still showing this? Anyway, like I said, hopefully it's not too small for you guys. But the idea being that the 211 app is powered by Chords. And those two platforms, especially the Chords one, if you have any inkling of connecting with 211 or wanting to enhance or you have data that you think might be a complementary data set here, let us know, right? There's so many different ways that we can be connected that way. All right, so let me start running now. So the summer of AI, right? I had a dull summer, what can I say? What I had though was a lot of students that needed things to do. And I wanted to make sure, and we also had a lot of groups trying to sell us AI, and we had a lot of groups where you could do things for free. So we had a lot of capacity this summer. And I'll tell you, everything I'm going to say here, some of my recommendations and some of my next steps, these are mine. Like these are not, I don't have any decision-making power in any of these things because AI can be quite triggering for some, right? Because there's a lot of things that we don't know about it, where it's going. The quality can be up and down for sure. There's, people worry about it sort of replacing certain functions. But the fact is, what I've been seeing is that there's just no way that we can ignore the tools that AI is putting out there, specifically in our data maintenance and data access type of roles. All right, so I'm going to keep going. And like I said, I'll have to burn through pretty quick. So one of the, sorry, I went back. I didn't even tell you what I was going to do. Oh, I talked a little bit about data standards, data maintenance, translations, public facing. All right. So data standards, again, when you have 150,000 records across the country coming together, they're all done and written by people specific to those provinces, to those cities. There is no 211 Canada. It's a dream, it's a concept, it's a committee, but it isn't an organization with a single hierarchy of people. There's different standards in each province. And what we're trying to do for things like that 211 Canada app and others is, you try to shoehorn things to work. But there are times when the way people write, you're wondering, could this be done better? Instead of trying to get 100 people or 50 people to do things the same way, when it may or may not work for them locally, could we use AI potentially to do things a bit different? So in this test, what we did is we looked at the 211 data set, and there are it's not a surprise, it's on the screen for an hour now, 42,000 distinct eligibility statements, meaning that I went through the database and I said, count all the different ones, and there's 42,000. So some of them are different by period, some of them are different by a word or two, and some of them are trying to say the same thing, but wildly different. And when you think about sharing data, which is another big part of what I have to do, people will say, can we filter by eligibility? And we always have to say no, because and I get it, because the fact is there's so many variations on eligibility, for sure. But in this test, what we wanted to do was to see if AI could make 42,000 eligibility statements into something that's a bit more distinct and a little bit more manageable. And so you crunch it. We worked with Yanzio on this one, which some of you may know from some of the other conferences. But they are a group doing using AI tools really in that INR field, and it is something where it does seem to make a lot of sense. But I want you can't trust it right off the bat. You have to do some testing. So in this case, we took the 42,000, we ran it through AI. We said group it into buckets, as few as you can, and what we got to was 85 AI-generated eligibility statements. And I mean, that's much more manageable, of course. It's still a lot, but you can imagine, how is that even possible, right? So there's obviously some give or take. So what I had the students do this summer was I gave them about 10,000 of these records, and I had them go through. And again, these are not 211 expert children or students, right? These are summer students. So this was an alpha test to see if there was even an inkling of usefulness to this experience or this experiment. And so up on the screen there now, hopefully you can see it okay, is just on the left, for me anyway, is the eligibility original. That's from iCarol. On the far right is the AI tags, horrible names. But all of that to say, this is what the system came up with. So, persons affected by lupus, disability, health condition, chronic illness. So you can see how it's starting to, it buckets, but without the specificity, right? And so the question is, and it kind of leads to some of another one of the things I'll talk about in a second about the audience. So, and what I had the students do was go through and, to their best estimate, tell me if the AI generated one fully matched or fully covered, mostly covered, or didn't cover what was being said here, right? And we gave them some sort of context and stuff, but just use their best judgment, right? This is not science. This was, what did you think about it, right? And so what we got was about 95% of the statements covered fully or mostly. And it was almost 89% fully covered. So these 85 covered almost 90% of the 42,000 tags. All right, so I'll talk about the next steps in a second because I got to keep rolling. But the idea being that, it just told me right off the bat, there's a potential there, because one of the biggest issues that we get with 211 data is that it's very, it's flexible in the sense that it's written differently, different languages, or different sort of, language levels, and I'll talk about that in a second too. But the idea being that, so the next steps for this one here is review findings with 211 staff. All our staff locally here were doing their accreditation for Inform Canada or Inform USA, so nobody could help me. That's fine. That's why I had to abuse the students. But we'll review the findings. We're going to further refine the list if possible. And I'll say this a few times, but I have this dream, and whether it'll ever come to be, I don't know. It won't be my decision. But if we get to a point where AI can do some of this work for us, we can provide both. We can provide the iCarol original and the AI-assisted field through an API or on the website. We're in areas that we can control. Because I understand, especially for a resource specialist, like there's a, this is what the real word, this is what the requirements are. So we have to, everything I'm saying here is going to be reviewed and approved or not approved. And again, it won't be me that does any of it, but the idea is to keep pushing ourselves to make sure we're not missing out on certain things. All right, so let me keep rolling. Data standards, broken links. We've been using link checkers for a long time, but they are a pain because what happens is quite often you have to upload a bunch of links and it doesn't, it tells you what's good or bad, but it doesn't keep the resource, like the agency number or the link, like in iCarol, like it's not you don't know the resource ID. So you got to go find that link again. So we had a company reach out to us saying, hey, we can review websites and tell you about broken links and other things that I won't get into, but they can, they'll try to tell you if there's new services or whatever, or if the phone numbers change and all of that stuff. So again, I had the students go through, so I had that company go through and they checked 4,000 links and they labeled 500 as broken by these automated processes. And I had the students go through again and tell me if those links were actually broken. And in this case, it was like 44 false positives, meaning that they went out and checked 44% of the links and they were working, they weren't broken. So it was like a bit of wasted time. It tells me that 56% of the links were broken, right? And which is helpful. But 44% not being broken is, in my mind, too much. So I'm going to roll right into the next steps. But the idea being that it's only a matter of time before this gets better. So we could work with the vendors to work on things like, like what really constitutes a broken link. Did you check it more than once? It's not necessarily directly related, but can you imagine if, say, the contact link is broken? Well, can the AI go find the other contact link, the new one, right? Like, I know it can't. Like, that's the kind of stuff. We just have to see if we can, in a way that's not so expensive, is to be able to bring that stuff back, automate some of those processes. Because I know for all of the 211 staff that have to do the accreditation and anybody working under the Inform USA type stuff, just staying on top of it is ridiculously hard. And create tools to allow 211 staff to review broken links and suggested links. I won't get into it too much, but we're definitely working on tools that would allow us to do things outside of iCarol and then feed it back into iCarol automatically. All right, chatbots. Again, so the test for this one was, well, and I'll just say, like right off the bat, like chatbots are coming. They're everywhere, and they're so easy to create. And so again, with a very limited set of data, we created a chatbot that was centered around 211 Toronto data. Not live, like nobody could get to it without going behind his password and stuff. But the fact was, we wanted to see if you could have a chatbot using only 211 data. And what are the first things that come out? Because again, at the very end, I'll talk, now I'll talk about it for about 5 seconds, but the risks of chatbots, the risk of letting something else provide a referral that doesn't have that sort of person intervention is risky. There's no doubt about it. But the idea was, well, can you mitigate that risk? And in this case, what we did is we had the students go in, and they really enjoyed this one because they're, you have a bunch of teenagers trying to go in there and get the chatbot to say crazy things. And we were able to, right off the bat, they almost couldn't get it to do anything fun. It was just all business. But when there were things that were just a little bit off or whatever, we could set up prompts and put the instructions around it to stop it from doing that. Like when I first started building it, and when I say build it, like it literally takes an afternoon. If I said, I was thinking about hurting myself. Like you want to get at those sort of extreme examples, and it would try to make me feel better, and it would try to do all these things. And I said, if somebody talks about self-harm or suicide or anything like that, you give them 988 and you don't do anything else, right? We don't want to have this thing trying to be something it's not. And the same with even just general resources. If it's not inside the 211 resource directory, don't show it. And then of course we always wanted to say you can call 211 if it's not there, or if you need more help, or click here for the chat. Like that's the kind of stuff we would do. And just it's not, I don't expect you to read all of that. You probably can't. But all that to say is you can build a whole set of prompts around this, right? That's what all AI is when you're working with it, is building a scope for it to work within. And every time that somebody found something, I would just go in here, create another sentencing. If somebody talks about self-harm, you tell them to dial 988. If somebody talks about they don't feel well, you don't try to diagnose it. You say, well, if this is an emergency, call 911. It's that kind of stuff. So again, it's about scoping it down to the thing that you want. So yeah, chatbots, chatbots may have a place. It's hard, right? Because again, they're going to be easy to do, and I think it's going to be one of those areas that just gets really good as far as like quality. And do they have a chance? Could we use chatbots to take on some of the chats that we do here at 211? Like a chat takes 20 minutes, like on average. And in a lot of cases, people are only doing one chat or one call. They're not doing both. So are there sort of low-hanging fruit chats that we could be using through the chatbot and allowing people to be on the phones, and thereby reducing, say, abandonments, all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, chatbots are definitely going to be on the radar, I suspect. All right, machine translations. This is about, again, using things like Google or Amazon to do the French translations. Again, I'm kind of rushing now, but the idea being that, for anybody that does or works with the translators, they're already using a lot of assistance tools. The software nowadays for translation, it's wild, right? Like you can put in all the things you've already translated. They call them like lexicon or memories. And, when it sees that word, it'll grab it from your lexicon. And 211 has a lot of that type of stuff. But on the other hand, though, we also wanted to make sure, in general, is it going to get to the point where there's ad hoc, where you can translate on the fly, or if we're using it, and take it up to iCarol, which of these products are going to be the most useful to start with? All right, so we worked with our partners in Ottawa on this one, and then we had testers from New Brunswick, Quebec, and Ontario. So what we did was we had 60 records, 211 records of different lengths and topics, translated by 5 multi-language tools: Google, ChatGPT, Amazon, DeepL, and the software that some of us may know, which is called Phrase, which is like this, the be-all and end-all of translation software. So, and then we asked those people so they more or less reviewed 300 translations. They had no idea which tool it was from, but they looked at each one to see, and they answered 3 questions. So how accurate is it? How understandable? And is it appropriate for the 211 public record? And 3 of the 5 testers were from the 211 world. So we had people, all of them were from sort of the social service world, and 3 of them were from the 211 sector. So they have a sense of what would normally go out as French. And what I'm seeing here, just overall, believe it or not, and this is very early days. So the final report, which isn't going to be done for a little while, Google was coming out on top. And it's not the same Google as the Google Translate, that little drop-down thing you might see on some websites. These are these sort of behind-the-scenes kind of connections that they have. But all that to say is, this one surprised me because we thought that Google was sort of dropping off. But the idea is, again, I got to keep flying. Can we use machine learned translations? We're going to be building tools that would allow you to take a bulk set of translations and move them into iCarol in bulk, en masse. But can we use machine translations even on the websites? Because French is one thing, but I think we all know that when it comes to the people on our sites, certainly outside of Quebec or New Brunswick, French is not the top language that people would love it in. So can we start to incorporate other automated translation services into our websites, even into our data sharing? It's a big thing, but the fact is machine translation, I think, just like a chatbot, is just going to get to the point where you can't ignore it. And the idea is, how can we use it to make our systems more efficient? Oh my Lord, this is my favorite one and I'm almost done. Okay. Is that somebody saying I gotta go? Let me do this one real quick. So we had, this was not so much testing, but this was just something that's always been for me. We had 10,000 records with descriptions, agency descriptions under 100 characters. And what that tells me, of course, is that we're writing, it's always been this way. We, for the most part, we write, the editors, resource specialists write for the call taker, right? Because the call taker, the 211 staff, they know what a community fridge is. But so much of what we do now is web-based. Like so many people are coming to our 211 data from different avenues. So could you use AI to create different, to write data for different audiences? Again, this could be, you could send out both, and you could have this one as an AI assisted field. So this was just a quick ChatGPT overview or description. Like this, I said, write this for somebody that doesn't know what a community fridge is. And that's what it comes up with. Because again, I kind of knew what a community fridge was, but did I know that how it's different than a food bank? I didn't. All right. So this one here, this one is language level, right? Sorry, I'm running. This is an iCarol description from one of from some group. And this level here, sorry, this content down here is for an ESL program. And this is how it's described in our system. This is what's on the website. And on the phone, a call taker can look at this and make it and paraphrase it for the caller. But on the web, this is what's seen. I put this into one of the little college, the writing level testers. It's college level. Like think of those words, like the ones I've got highlighted there. You know, there's lots of times where maybe it's a social worker doing the search, but if you're a newcomer or somebody coming to this site and your English is not amazing, some of this doesn't make any sense to you. So again, can we use AI to create a version of this data that is easier to read, that it's more customizable? Because the biggest thing about AI is, and the future, I think, is people are going to expect the data, the service, whatever, to be very formatted for them, to be very specific to them, and for them to have the ability to tell the content they're looking at to be rewritten in a way. So I think, so anyway, those, I don't have a ton on that, but the idea being, oh yeah, so that one was 7th grade. So next steps on that one. Again, I see it. I feel like we can't ignore some of this stuff. All right, so let me just keep going because I know we're done. Now, I'm giving risks a complete short shrift, but don't think I don't know it. I get very excited about AI and about the potentials for efficiencies and all of that stuff, but I absolutely know that there's risk with it. And I also know that 211 strength is the authentication work, right? Like it's the amount of effort we put in to make sure that data is right. But, you know, there are certain things coming with AI that we can't ignore, and certain things that we can do that would maybe allow us to work in other areas that would be that much more better use of our time than checking dead links, than, you know, that we can create content that is, instead of writing 2 different versions of the same data, AI can do it for us. All right, I'm going to end there. It's already 2 o'clock, just about. I can't imagine chat or nothing. But thank you very much for letting me speed run that last half.
Thank you very much, Dave. There was one question in the chat, but you answered it with your last point. It was about if the app would be accessible in French, or if there was any plan to do that.
Oh, sorry. The app is fully bilingual for sure. Yeah, there's a menu or a little language toggle in the menu setting.
Yeah. And that was all of the questions that we had.
That's great.
You are listed on the website as a speaker and in the networking session. So if anyone has any more questions for you, they can feel free to reach out to you through the networking side of our team.
Oh, that's great. Right. All right, thanks everybody. And like I said, if you want to connect on any of that stuff, especially the app or the core stuff, please just reach out, and happy to talk anytime. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Enjoy the next session, everyone.
All right. Thank you.